This conference will now be recorded.
Being 5:59, ostensibly 6 p.m., we'll bring the January 17th, 2024 Tilton Budget Committee to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll start with reviewing the minutes. Sure.
Under the police thing, I don't think we actually removed anybody from the budget. Right?
Um,
Where are you at?
No, just the monies.
Oh, we didn't actually vote on the police budget yet.
No, we haven't voted on that. Why,
Right,
is that what
right.
it says?
No.
Yeah, it says they removed from the proposed budget. It should just be the budget and just discuss the police budget or something, because we didn't actually remove it.
Oh, they removed.
Yeah. I mean, we
What?
talked about the budget, but I don't think we actually made any motion to
We
remove
did
anything.
not. We did not.
I mean, we should just
Well,
alter it.
Well, okay. How do you want me to write that then?
Just put about the PD budget and leave
Okay,
off the
so
rest.
just remove the line removed from.
Just
Yeah, just say that we'd like to
leave
talk
off
to the
the
committee.
patrolman they removed from the proposed budget.
So it should just say police chief,
How
eight
about
human.
talk about the budget and
Would
leave
like
out
Would like to
patrolman
talk to the
altogether.
committee about the PD budget.
Yeah,
Period.
leave it at that. Yep.
Yeah,
Plain and simple.
because we didn't actually we didn't make a motion to do anything with
Yep.
it. Thanks.
where is that? Missing this thing.
That they're talking about, first page.
Yeah.
It's right on, first it's the Hall Memorial Library and then it's the next paragraph down.
Oh, I see, yeah. I got it.
Yeah, that's it.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the January 10th, 2024 meeting as amended.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
You said it too fast.
the ayes have it. All right, so now we're off to review the things we had put off from last week. I don't know, Tim, do you want to make a statement on any changes?
Sure. So there have been a few changes, namely the Board of Selectmen hired a town administrator, and the salary now in the budget reflects salary for that town administrator. And in reviewing the administration budget, which is the town administrator's responsibility, in discussions with him, there were some anticipated changes he foresaw during the year, and as such increased the next line after the town administrator salary line, which is the support staff line, from what it was prior. So it was about a $10,000 increase in that line. Other than that, the only other changes, there were a few minor changes, I think, to maybe the taxes or taxes based on those, taxes and merit based on those changes.
Was there any change to the benefits? Because isn't there something with his, like, health insurance and stuff? Is he taking health insurance? Was previous town administrator have
This,
health insurance? So shouldn't that go down a little bit?
this budget reflects everything that the town administrator is entitled to.
So was health
Without-
insurance in it before?
Health insurance is available to the town administrator, yes.
But isn't this new one not taking the health insurance?
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's an expense. No, it's not part of his contract, like, hiring contract about insurance. Okay. I didn't know if it was a difference from previous. That's all I'm asking. If there was a change.
There is a difference, but
'Cause-
this budget reflects everything that,
What it's going to be going forward.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if there was some, like, if it would help offset the increase in the salary. That's all.
So the town administrator is being hired at 115,000. Yeah. And his qualifications are commensurate with that, or obviously, okay. And then you've got 2 support staffs that are increasing at another 20,000 for that office.
that already had an increase to it. So the difference, the difference is about about a little over $10,000 difference from the last budget.
Oh, yeah. Well, last year it was 54 and now it's 74. I guess that's all I'm saying.
Well, the last budget that you had was 63,000
Okay.
and now it's 74.
The health insurance did change. It went down.
Any other questions for Tim right now?
And the only other thing I would just mention is that the capital reserve fund for the island has 87,000 and change in it, and that there was some discussion about the hydrology study that's in the park maintenance line on page. Let's see where it is.
11.
Page 11, down towards the bottom. So if that were to be, since that's an estimate from what I understand, if that were to be moved from there into the capital reserve, paid for by the capital reserve fund, then you'd be looking at historically about a $3,000 cost of the maintenance at the island. So electricity, mowing, that sort of thing. So theoretically, that could be reduced 19,000.
What was the $19,790 that was expended last year on that park maintenance when it was closed?
That was part of the grant for the historic landscape plan.
Town money was paid for that?
So we had a grant, but because of the gross budgeting, you have to put the revenue and you have to have the expense in. So that's where it
Okay,
was
so it was
expensive.
offset by the grant.
That's correct.
Okay. Phew. Thank you. Well, I'd make a motion to reduce that line to 3,000. Number 4520.945 Park Maintenance Island.
About 3,000?
3,000.
Minus 3,000, which
No,
is,
down to 3,000
oh, down to 3,000. Okay. From 22,
from 22.
3,000. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
So Parks is not going to need that 22 for anything for the island?
No, Parks doesn't, the Board of
That's a
Selectmen
maintenance.
are in charge of the island maintenance.
Okay.
And that's what you suggested, Tim, right? Was 3,000?
Yes. Yes, out of the 87,000
reserve money.
that's in the capital reserve, that was,
The board has not approved yet.
that's correct. That's correct.
That's in the capital reserve for a specific reason.
It covers things such as that hydrology study. It would cover that.
What is the Parks Commission going to use it for?
The Park Commission doesn't have access to that money.
Yeah, they don't have, yeah.
It's not the Park Commission's reserve account. That's the money that's been put in there over the years to take care of the erosion issue on the island. So a
It's like a capital
hydrology study,
It's a
yeah.
capital reserve fund.
That's what that money was raised and appropriated for. The purpose was changed a couple of years ago to include other things on the island.
So it has nothing to do with the Park Commission. It's just
Right.
That's right.
maintenance.
It's just the island.
Right.
Okay,
You're
got it.
thinking of the.
Yeah, yeah. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. All right, so we also need to discuss Home Memorial Library and the police. I think Abe's here. Why don't we discuss that? I know Tim had sent kind of an explanation, Kathy, I think. Right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Did that explanation resolve your questions?
Yes, I think I sent it to all, didn't I?
Yeah, we all
Yes.
got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
the second
yeah.
response made it more clear to me.
yeah. So the-
But I would still propose removing 90,000 from that budget.
And how would that impact your budget?
Police department and my budget.
Well, we know how it would
Two
impact the
different things.
budget.
Obviously, officer safety, safety for everyone in the community is number one. What I want to say is that's not a new position, and I think I didn't receive that email, which you guys have there, but I kind of know was probably was in it. I just want to say that in 2019, that the police department came to the town and asked for an 8th officer. Since then, that officer was there for about 2 years, and in 2021 he left, and so did everybody else. I think everybody in the town knows that. Since then, at that point, we had 16 officers total, as in everybody, including the chief. So in 2016, So in 2020, we had 16 officers. We had a chief, a captain, a lieutenant, 2 patrol sergeants, 1 detective sergeant, 1 detective, 1 SRO, and 8 patrol. That's what was approved. Since that time, we actually got rid of that captain's position. So now we only have 15. Okay.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's ever calculated in any of the stuff there.
That was in that email that there were 15
Yeah. So
positions.
that's not included. We actually stripped the detective sergeant away. We don't have a detective sergeant anymore. We just have 2 detectives. And at this current time, we only have 1. So there's been some things that I think I'm not asking for another officer. We're trying to hire and get our staffing where it needs to be, which it hasn't been in years. Since everybody left in 2021, we've been trying to play catch up, and it's been difficult. So I know there was some questions, and I don't know if anybody had some questions for me since I'm here
Well,
about exactly.
now the reason that you need the 90,000, that there are higher wages, is that what was happening? Why that was still needed?
Then that 8th officer, the 8th patrolman?
Right.
Oh, don't ask me.
So the 8th patrolman is always, it's been in there, is what it is. We're
Oh.
not asking for anything. What was asked from us is to find out the wages, retirement, benefits, and then what it costs. And I guess that's the number they came up with, is 90,000 to strip that officer, that patrol officer, from the town and take it away from the PD. That's pretty much to go back.
Gotcha.
So go back, we would say it would actually, I don't even know when's the last time we had, it would be, now we'd be down to 14. Because like I said, we had 16, we lost the captain. So that brings it down to 15. And then if we take that 8th officer now away and have 7, we're down to 14. I can't remember when we had 14 sworn personnel at the police department. If you drive around, we all have lived here. I've lived here my whole life. I mean, I lived here when Pike Industries and the runway went across the street from that was the field with the trailers, A&P, Ames. I remember. My grandparents would roll over in their grave right now if they knew and could see the way the town is.
Sure.
And that's the problem. The problem also is, I know and I understand that we have 3,700 residents here, and everything that the police and all the expenses, everything else is on the taxpayer or on the residents, on their backs. I can get down that rabbit hole of, I don't think it's right that we have as many businesses as we do, and we go to a lot of calls. And I would say about 70% of the calls that we handle, roughly 19 to 20,000 calls we handle a year. I'd say about 70% of those calls are to the businesses. Okay, so the residents get maybe 20% and then another 10 to traffic, and that's on the light side. We should be more than that. But when you're low staff and you don't have the staffing, it's hard to get out there and do those things. And you see the increase of accidents. We had 500 accidents this year. That's the highest we've ever had. And people go, oh, well, people just don't know how to drive. No, that's because it's hard for us to get out there and patrol. And if we can't be visible, then things like that happen. So I really, I had a little something I wanted to say. And if you had a second, I kind of wrote something up. So I want to first off say thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As a law enforcement agency, our main priority is to ensure the safety and security of our residents and visitors. As you may be aware, Tilton has experienced a significant growth in recent years. This brings both opportunities and challenges for our town as we continue to navigate this transformation. While we are excited about the potential that comes with the growth, it also means an increase in demand for our services. We are constantly working hard to adapt to these changes and provide the best possible service to our community. In light of this, I am addressing a concern that was brought up, cutting a patrol position within our department. We understand that the budget constraints can be difficult, but we firmly believe that reducing our patrol is not the answer. In fact, reducing staff would only hinder our ability to effectively respond to emergencies and maintain a strong presence in the community. Our officers work tirelessly every day in and day out, keeping Tilton safe. Cutting a patrol position would put a strain on their already demanding workload. Furthermore, as Tilton continues to grow and attract more businesses and residents, we need all hands on deck to handle the potential issues and crimes effectively. Our current staffing levels are already stretched thin due to shortages and the increased demand for police services. In conclusion, the safety and security of our community should always remain a top priority for all parties involved in decision-making processes. I urge you to reconsider cutting a patrol position from the department roster. Thank you.
Well said. And what I was wondering was, when it came up, was that it was a position that wasn't filled.
It's a position that is new. History shows we haven't needed it. And the chief said when it was asked for in 2019, it was only filled for about 2 years. That history shows it wasn't needed. It isn't needed.
Okay, you had a question, Kristen?
Just a little clarification on how many people you had. In 19, you had, you said there was a minus a captain, so does that mean you had 19 people that year?
No, so in 2020 or 2019, we had a captain, a chief, captain, lieutenant, 2 patrol sergeants, 1 detective sergeant, another detective, 1 SRO, and 8 patrol officers.
How many is that?
That would be 16 altogether.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then 20, we had how many?
In 2020, that stayed the same. 2021, half of 2020, well, I'd have to look at that because everybody left in 20. I mean, we obviously kept the number there. I don't know exactly what we were for staffing. I mean, we've been up and down. So in 2021 into 2020 into 2021, we moved into the new police department in March of 2021. We lost the chief, the captain, lieutenant, the detective sergeant, the detective, and I think 1 or 2 patrol officers. Yeah. And we slowly got back up and we go back down, but we've never surpassed 12 or 13 people because we're trying to hire. But if you go to any department in this area, State Police is down 100. I mean, Northfield's down, Franklin's down to 3 of the patrol. They usually have at least 10 on the patrol. It's not like Catherine had stated, it's not that we don't need it. It's hard to hire. We have an officer now that we've already given the green light because the board has approved me to hire these just like every year. Every year, get to staff. It's not easy to get to staff. This time, for some reason, some things have changed. We have a sergeant right now in the process. It would be the lieutenant, but I'm doing that in-house, the sergeant. And we have a patrol officer that's ready to go. I've done the 80 hours. The sergeant's done 80 hours worth of a background. And we've also paid the money to do a polygraph and a psychology. The reason why I did not hire that officer right now is because there's not an open academy spot right now. So the officer would have to be in Wastetown money, would have to be double in a car with the FTO for more than the 12 weeks of FTO. They'd have to be in a car with an officer or their FTO for over 30 weeks. To me, that's a waste, but it's also good training. I'm just trying to say, but so I waited to hire until we got closer to that date of the academy, which is in June. And then obviously this came up. So I now got to find out to tell that new officer or soon to be, or if not, what the plan is. So kind
So
of on a
was
pause.
2023 the 14 people?
So the 2023 would be, if you cut this, it would be the 14 was what it would
Was
be at.
last year?
Yeah, so it's been, so from when everybody left at 2021 or 2020 right there, it went to 15 because they automatically, when the captain left, they kept that position away. So
Okay,
you got a chief, a captain, or chief and lieutenant instead of a chief, captain, lieutenant.
so 15 people was in 22
Correct.
and 14 in 23.
In 23, if we cut that. If, yep.
Oh, if we
Yeah,
cut,
that's just
if-
23 is
this
right
is
now.
24.
What was
Well, what did we have
year?
last year?
Last year,
Yeah.
well, I was
14?
approved. I was approved for 15. That would be the approved. But what I had
Yeah.
was, it all depended on which month you were in. It could be
That was another
12.
year?
It could be, oh yeah. I mean, I have it written down, but it would take a little while to kind of go through
No,
it.
I
But I have it
don't
down
need
every
the per month.
every single month when we lost and what we had, and at a time. And you got to remember also, all last year I had somebody on deployment for a year. Okay, so couldn't fill a spot. That was a certified offset employment. Another one had some personnel issues, and that was another spot that I wasn't able to use as a patrol officer. So altogether, I'd say average on the whole year last year that ran the police department was probably 10 officers or 10 people, personnel,
How many approved
out of
spots
15.
do you have right?
15.
That includes everything.
That's
even
everybody. Well, that's
Not filled, but-
sworn personnel.
Not filled, but how many do you have in your budget right now?
In my budget, that would be 20.
Well,
Because you have your admin assistant, you have 3 dispatchers, but for sworn personnel and officers, you have 15. That's what I have in my
the
budget.
head count has not changed between 23 and 24 in the
That's-
budget.
No, yeah,
That's what your budget
Okay.
supports right now, as is 15.
15
Sworn officers.
sworn officers. Yep, correct.
Pat, did you have a?
I did, and I think part of what the chief had touched on a lot of it, but particularly at the end. When we originally went from the 7 to the 8 was mainly because of scheduling in officer safety, and without getting into the details of officer safety, it was coverage and backup. And that was huge, and it wasn't happening, and it was getting into very precarious situations and legal situations. So we needed that officer for the backup. Now we have a very diligent chief who's using that time, even though it looks like we don't need it because we're getting by with it. But nobody's asking the chief how many hours in a week he spends, because he's taking those shifts that are not covered. And he's asking his officers, his sergeants, to take those shifts that are not being covered. Sooner or later, you're going to burn the chief out. And that's what's going to happen. When you're working 750 hours of overtime in a year, that's what's going to happen. So you, just because it's not being seen and it's not in a budget, it's not that you're not using it. You're using it in different areas, and sooner or later, those other areas are going to be just burnt out. You can't have a chief be out there on patrol that many hours when he's not being able to do his own job. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, thanks. More questions for the chief?
Give me a second, I forgot. When you're fully staffed with all these positions, do you anticipate overtime would go down?
Yes.
Sorry. You're welcome.
I mean, maybe it's on me from last year, and I'm probably going to speak. Probably some people would tell me just to be quiet, but I'm very transparent. And I remember sitting in front of the board last year, and I was over what, $50,000. If you remember, if we all go back, I was $50,000 over budget. Well, yeah. So what did I go over this year? $8,000. Okay. So, and you know why? Is because I was asked directly, do we need to increase that? In my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm a fighter and I'm going to get staffing up. I'm going to get staffing up. Well, it didn't happen. We lost 3, we gained 3, and we're still breaking even. We're finally at a place I honestly can say we have somebody that's going to the academy. Again, we have a sergeant position that we're in the process of doing a background. Everything looks good with that. I see we've got 2 applications that came in today, and I got a background that I finished on that patrol officer spot. So out of all the years that I've been in this role, lieutenant, and we came over to the new PD, I'm very confident, and I haven't moved that overtime budget because I feel very confident at this juncture. It's really going to hurt if we do cut a spot. And I can't say that that is going to go over if we do cut that spot, because I have to fill those positions. I have to try to still have officers on the road. I still got to have people. We're 24/7. That's the thing. Everybody's home. Thanksgiving, holidays, all that stuff. It's not like, oh, do we have the day off? Snow days. That doesn't happen with police. We are out there all the time, every day, all day. There's somebody at the police department you can pull in and talk to. And again, the town can't do anything about businesses being built and things being built, but you have a 5-star resort that's going to be built. What do you think that's going to contribute to the police department? I mean, and that's on the other side of town. All these are being built, and that's fine. I'm great. Hey, it's growing. Not much we can do about it, but we can't keep the police department just at one or go backwards if we're increasing. We all know the traffic count in this area, so that's all I have to say.
Does that take into consideration the SRO in the summer?
Yes, so the SRO is independent from that 8. It's 9, and in the summertime, that SRO will come over for that month and a half, give or take, and we'll work patrol and help with maybe detective, depending on what it is. We get a lot of calls at Walmart that don't rise to the level of like a detective needs to do it, and to have somebody in there to help. But the summertime, that's usually what we do. Is this SRO will go on patrol for that month and a half, depending on how many snow days they have, and we'll be in patrol.
This is not necessarily germane, but it might be for you. Is there a reason we don't charge impact fees for these new businesses?
Oh,
There you go.
the government changed the impact law a number of years ago. So, yeah, no. pretty
One of
hard
the
to
another
charge
big
an
issues
impact
is
fee.
that the housing market has gone nuts, which has actually reduced commercial taxes. I mean,
The residential properties
yeah.
are carrying more of the burden
right,
than the commercial right now.
right.
Just hard.
So, any other?
I haven't changed my mind.
Yeah.
History
Well-
shows it's not a position that's been necessary. We haven't had any history of officers' injuries because the lack of it. So population hasn't really changed much in the past 10, 15 years, blah, 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 blah.
If I could just share one more thing. On top of that, I looked at some of the stats, and in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, at 2019, 20, and 2021, we're that eighth officer. Our citations and SOPs were about 2,500 stops. It went to 2,200 in 20, it went to 1,277 in 21, and it went down to 405 in 22. Arrests went from 713 to 368 to 378 to 158 when we lost everybody. Crime doesn't stop. Crime doesn't just stop because we don't have officers. All right. Felony investigations went from 312 to 248, from 129 to 103. Those are felony investigations. Those are the worst of the worst offenders. Those are the cases that you do not want. Residents, these are home invasions, break-ins, drugs. These are bad things, and we're going from 312 to 103. That's a huge decrease. Steadily, there's 18 to 20,000 calls for service. And these aren't all the little other calls that we get. We still do lockouts. We are the only ones that do the motor vehicle lockouts. We still give that service. If we take that away, Rusty's going to come. They'll charge you about 300, 150, depending on where you are and the time of the day. So those are service that we give. We do property checks. An officer goes through and does a property check at every business. And on top of getting the calls at night, goes through and does how many properties do we have? And they're driving through the businesses, on top of looking at the parking to make sure that the winter, the parking downtown, on top of helping other, and we've talked about this last time, on top of helping other departments that can't staff their people, and they have to ask us to go over there until they show up. That's Samerton, Belmont, and Northfield. So that's one officer doing all that on top of whatever else comes on in the midnight for our calls. And I'll tell you, it's not an easy thing. And I've been out there. I did close to 10 years with the midnights. It's not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different animal, and to not have that support, not have another officer out there with you, and you're running around doing whatever, and everybody's sleeping, you're trying to keep the peace. It's not an easy job. So crime doesn't stop, and people start to catch on, but we need to keep everybody
How
safe.
does that work? I mean, so you get fully staffed and then you have to send these guys off to another department. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, you hope when you get fully staffed that you're able to at least have an officer here. And if you had another officer, because what happens is, it would be like if we went to only 2:00, that there's an officer that says, hey, you're going to go home. We don't have enough for staffing. So let's say Northfield, they say, oh, we're done at 3:00 in the morning. So-and-so is on call. If they get a call for domestic, Belknap County is going to call that officer in Northfield and say, hey, you have a domestic. Okay. In the meantime, can you send another town? Well, they're going to call Belmont. Belmont's closed. They're going to call Samerton, but the closest is Tilton. So then our officer has to go over there. It is what it is. That's something that we have to have a chat with a couple of these other communities and say, if we're going to go over there, you know what I mean?
Is there no provision where you can actually charge them?
I mean, life safety. I mean, I guess you could say if we go over there, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, what are you really supposed to do, honestly? So
it impacts, our safety.
Yes. But there's times that if we have one officer out, you do a normal, I would say normal, but nothing's normal, but you do a traffic stop and it turns into an arrest. You can be in the booking room for 2 hours. So who's on the road in those 2 hours? So then you have Northfield actually comes over and helps some of our calls, and they help us back and forth. So it's mutual aid. That's how that works. But It gets to the point where it's a little bit more when you're not, keeping up to your staffing. I don't understand, and I won't get down that, but I don't understand as our department having a chief and 2 sergeants. We used to have a chief, a captain, lieutenant, 3 sergeants, and some of these departments have that higher staff and higher admin, and they can still close at 2 or 3 in the morning. but we don't. And they asked me that. How do you do it, chief? How do you? I said, well, I don't mind working. The sergeants don't mind working. Other people don't mind working. You have to step up to make it work. I can't just tell the people or somebody that's working at the Cumberland Farms at night, hey, sorry, but if you get robbed tonight, that just doesn't happen. We have 24-hour stores here. We have people that are depending on the police department to be there. So it's just some things that we just can't do. And I would never want to get to that point where we'd have to do that.
I mean, we have 3 and 11, which is, a major highway.
Yeah.
That's really impacts us more than anything.
It does. It's a main corridor for everything. Anybody that needs to get to motorcycle weekend, or God forbid you need to do anything in Laconia, Franklin, other activities that are going on, they get off exit 20. If you know the back roads, good. But everybody that doesn't know gets off exit 20 and comes through Tilton. So.
Question. Do you find that you're having to support these other towns more than they're helping support us, or? Yeah.
I do, because it's usually balanced pretty well. But because of the midnight, this whole midnight thing where Samerton did it years and years and years ago, and that was fine. And they realized that they didn't need anybody after 2. But the Northfields, the Belmont, Franklin is just short staffed. They still have people on, but they usually have a mandatory minimum. So 3-4 officers, and I think they're down to like 2, or they're just overtime. And it just takes a lot. But yes, I don't think it's being evenly distributed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions? Me?
I think we're good. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to me.
All right, there's probably discuss Hall Memorial Library. We got the changes in that, the 3%. So that, and
Yeah, they even have it added here.
sure, yep.
And it's on the proposed hours. I'm hoping they keep those proposed hours and not reduce them to move wages everywhere else. I think it's good.
I did listen to the Northfield tape, and they discussed both the Pines and the library.
Yeah.
And of course, it's really what we come up with too. It says it's a lot of money in those 2 organizations, and the Pines tends to pay a little bit more, but they're actually saying how their programs are way underpriced. They say comparable areas were probably 3 times the price being charged.
Really?
What the Pines is charging. Yeah, that was an interesting.
I think you've been saying that.
We didn't been talking about that, but yeah. And
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So they
I
can
mean
get more fees.
they already augment their budget quite a bit as it is from.
They're gonna have a new director, right? Pines, didn't Brittany leave?
Right.
So, I mean, a new director could bring in a new perspective too on the cost of programs and things like that too.
Hopefully, yeah.
I mean, somebody that's coming from a different place is gonna be open to other things if they've already seen and experienced, so
Yeah.
that could be helpful.
I mean, the Hall Library really doesn't have much of any kind of
The Home Memorial Library is
income
knowing they don't
producing
raise
at
any
all.
revenue, so
Right.
that's my
Yeah.
point. Even just a little bit of a,
Well, just the book finds or something.
just a little,
Yeah.
just, if you're holding special events like the sip and paints
Sure.
and things like that, just charge a nominal fee. Just show us that you have a little skin in the game.
Right. Yeah.
Or at least recoup the costs.
Yeah.
Right, if it's costing
For the program.
$15 a person, then they should
Right.
pitch in some towards it, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it brings
just my-
people in, but it's not literature.
But I
I
think
mean,
they,
people will still come, I mean, if it's a reasonable cost, people will come.
I think they voted both of them, their full budgets, but
They voted what?
their full budgets, yeah.
Well, the Pines, they're getting the majority of the services
Yeah.
Right.
for the amount of money they're
Way
paying.
more.
And I don't remember, did somebody figure out the percentage between Northfield
ago.
and Tilton?
I think we
Well,
need to do
there's
that.
both of them have more Northfield residents they service than Tilton.
Right, but the
Library's
Pines
not
was
quite as
huge.
distorted as. the
Right.
Pines.
I thought I wrote
I
it
The
think-
the
down.
Pines
I-
was 23% Tilton. That's the way I remember it.
What was it?
The Pines was 23% of Tilton residents.
23% for Tilton?
And then the library, for all she could do was do cards, and it was about a little over 1,900 card holders for Tilton and a little over 2,300 for Northfield.
It's like
It's less than I thought.
45% to 55.
Yeah, it was closer there than the Pines.
That
So
was
the
it.
Hall Memorial Library has a little bit more Northfield than Tilton.
Right.
The Pines had 22%. They claimed that
But
was,
that's only card
Tilton
carrier,
in
so you don't really know
23.
how many,
yeah.
what the actual, they would have to probably break down the programs they have
Well, the other one,
into residents.
wasn't it the Pines that provided us with that information?
The Pines did, yeah.
He's talking about Hall Memorial.
Oh, you're
I'm
talking about Hall
yeah,
Memorial.
yeah.
Yeah, Pines is
Yeah,
significant.
so I mean,
We need to do
Hall
that letter.
Memorial is
We need to
Right.
do that letter for,
pretty variable. Yeah, I know.
no, we need to do that letter for next year. We've been talking about it for a
Right.
couple of years. We need to do that.
well, for both of them, yeah. But
Someone's preparing a letter, so.
I told you it was a
That's
bad
been
choice.
the last 2-3 years.
Bad choice.
Should be a formula,
The school formula type of thing.
similar, yeah.
Well, I forwarded you that legal response that I got that talked about, why it is we can give these outside agencies money at all, that we're buying services. So having read that and said that, we're essentially giving the Pines too much money, if you will, because we're not getting what we're paying for. We're not supposed to be funding the organization. We're supposed to be buying services. They're supposed to reciprocate in kind.
well, but it's open to both towns equally.
It doesn't matter.
It's just that because Tilton residents don't take the opportunity to use it, doesn't mean that that's how you calculate it.
But if you look back historically, and if that's the pattern, that,
One way to look at it.
if the pattern is that percentage, or, we'll say
Well,
20,
I
30%,
mean, if you don't want to do it yearly, then you would have to break it down every year and say, okay, this is how much
we'd have
we
to
were used, so we're only going to pay you this much. I mean, that's,
look at the average, yeah,
but to
average
me,
it out.
it's more of, it's a service that you fund hoping that it will be used.
I don't know.
I mean, that's what we do with the library.
But I had
Well,
to
the library is a
complain one
little
year.
different because you
It's-
have an RSA that specifically covers the library. It requires the town to have a public library for its residents. It's a little bit different.
Well, it doesn't require it. The towns
It doesn't
have to fund it if they have it. They don't have, that doesn't require them to have a library.
I think
I
it
thought the
does.
202, I
I
didn't
think it
see that.
requires us to have a library. It just doesn't say where.
No, it says that the state is in favor of libraries, and that if you can have a library, you should have one, and then you have to pay for it. But it doesn't say you have to have a library. There's a lot of towns without a library.
I'll have to read it again.
Yeah,
And I don't know how accurate the numbers at the Pines are either. I mean, people do sign in and sign out saying they're from Tilton or Northfield, but they have public events that people come in and
Right.
out of and nobody signs in. Like when they do the Easter, they do the breakfasts and things like that. People don't sign in and out for those things. when they
Yeah,
do
but those
craft
you
fairs.
actually pay for, don't you, when you have breakfast there?
Yeah.
A small fee, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like, there are people in and out of that building that don't sign in and sign out. So I don't know how accurate that is.
Okay.
They come in for exercise classes. They don't all sign in. I mean, they have Boy Scout meetings there. They have lots of stuff
Mhm.
that goes on that I don't know if they actually sign in and sign out for.
Wow,
So
they
I don't know
should.
how
They
those
need to know
numbers
who's
are.
in the building and how
Wow.
many.
One
I
time
mean,
I
people
brought,
rent it all
Case
the
of
time for
emergency.
events. They don't sign in and sign out. I mean,
right.
maybe they could tell it from their rental agreements what town they're from, but
They have voting there,
they, Northfield does the
Northfield
voting
does.
there, yeah.
so that's, that's.
But I just don't know how accurate that 23 and, percentage is. I don't know.
Well, even so, I know one year I had to, Brittany was fairly new. I think she might have been only a couple years in. They would give free scholarships to all Northfield kids and stuff. So she upped that because I complained about that. So, like you said, the new director might hopefully do some things differently.
But yeah, it's if you guys want to listen to that, it's like a couple hours, but it's pretty interesting how they were very discriminating about those issues and how big a part of that both of those were part of their budget.
They also look at it from a different way than Tilton does
No, but they were concerned. But
because of they have a lot more people using those services.
right, yeah. But
I mean, they have more housing, both of them.
Fully?
yeah, I believe they voted.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in the past, we've funded things fully and they haven't. So it's not, it doesn't set the bar for us. Or they funded it fully and then not paid it.
Right, exactly.
So,
All right. Well, let's get some motions on the floor. I'm going to move that we approve the police budget.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Are you saying the current budget? Like,
The budget that's proposed.
Tim gave
The
us?
proposed budget. Yeah.
okay.
The current proposed budget, the one that Tim adjusted?
Yes.
Yeah,
Did
so
today.
it's adjusted already.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're saying
The one
That-
dated
I was
117.
gonna say today's date.
1/7?
It's
Okay,
117.
117.
So the amount would be
Is that on page 11?
yeah. We've already approved 20,000. So
If I could recommend, it just for clarity's sake, it might be best just to do, if you're not making any changes to any of the lines, just to do the bottom line of the PD budget. It shows on the front page and it also shows on page 11. And that would incorporate any changes that you had already made.
so 2291 780.
That would be it, yeah.
Let me just check the, make sure I was.
That's on the front
Correct.
page of the department
That's on
request.
page 11 also.
It's the same amount on both pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
It matches, Tim.
How about that?
Yay!
Once in a while.
So what's the motion and who?
To approve 2,291,780 for the 2024 police department request.
I seconded it. Now discussion.
Okay.
I seconded it.
Any other discussion?
You already heard
We
mine.
know you. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Let the record show I voted no.
You voted no for
I
this
voted
budget?
no.
Nay.
Hey,
Okay.
Was everybody else?
Caesar would go.
Was everybody
Oh,
else?
4
aye?
ayes and a nay.
but let the record show that specifically I voted no,
Yes.
please.
Okay.
She wants her name in the minutes.
That's right.
Comment. I thought Tim already adjusted this. So
Yeah,
this is
that's-
including that extra person.
This is
Or
the
is it
bottom.
not?
This is the bottom line.
Right,
This
but-
is
Okay.
this is what the chief is requesting,
Right.
That's right.
correct?
That includes
Yes.
all the positions
he's
that he
requesting.
already
This is
talked
the
about.
Oh,
chief is
yes,
correcting
okay.
that what we just voted on.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
We need to do the admin budget too, right?
Admin and Public Works.
Okay.
Let's just do the library right now, since
Okay.
we've been discussing that.
I don't feel we need to, I personally don't need to change my vote from the last time we voted.
Which was the 3%?
That was the level funding.
Level
Oh,
fund.
level
Level
funding,
funding.
okay, yeah.
That's how I stay. Level funding.
Well, I'll move that we do 3% for the home
I'll second
library,
it.
which is current with some of the other town increases.
Is that 3% overall budget, 3%
Right,
on
whatever
the,
that was
on the
calculated.
raises?
Salary
or
line.
Yeah.
On the salary
Yeah.
line only?
Well, it doesn't matter. It's bottom line
Oh,
anyway.
yeah, they can do what they
I
want.
mean, they're short a person, so
But it
they
would show
could,
up in that line as under wages, 3%.
they're short a person anyway, so that could be distributed however they want, but
Just the salary line.
It doesn't matter what we do because it's a bottom line budget, so they can
Well,
put it
the-
where they want it.
The amount would be based on the calculation that Tim gave us for 3% of the wage.
Right.
right,
So it'd be the
Do
bottom
we
line.
have a
Tim, do you have that
total
figure?
number?
yeah, I don't know if I have that. here.
You should have it. It was given to you, I believe. I can try to pull it up here.
I have, you need a copy? Wait, that's,
She's good.
Okay, so,
The
yeah.
one from Tim is what we need.
Give it to
Yeah, thank you.
Billy.
So that is-
So
Where's the amount?
What you got, Tim?
I believe it's 5506.62. So
5506.62.
$5,506.
Okay, difference with FICA, yeah.
62
So you're
cents.
adding 550662 to the
62
135,886 we previously voted?
We haven't voted yet.
We
Previous-
were-
well, you level
Previously.
Yes, we
funded.
did
We
previously
voted-
voted
a level budget,
level
okay.
funding. So are you adding 3% to
Yeah.
the
Yes, we're-
level
yeah,
funding and not the 154
We're adding 5506
to the
and 62 cents to what we have
135,886?
already
Yes.
approved.
That includes the 3% raises.
So the
That's-
total, Tim, do you have the, just to make it easier to prove the total?
135,886 plus.
Say 5507. That would be.
What's the amount? 5507?
5506.62.
We'll round up to 07. It's okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 141,392.62 if you're
141,393. If
393. Okay.
393. We'll round it.
Okay,
So motion to approve that amount for Hall Library, and who seconded?
I seconded Bill.
okay. More discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Let the record
Okay.
show.
3-2.
Yeah, 3-2.
So did that fail?
No.
No,
Three to
it
two.
It
passed?
It passed.
Okay.
All right, and then there's admin. What did we have there? Was that the janitorial?
Well, that's the new wages for the new town administrator and things like that. So,
Okay,
and the janitorial.
that's
and
right.
Yep.
Right.
It's all the changes that they talked about. Personnel changes.
And how about the park commission? Did we
You did
voted
approve
on
Park
that.
Commission last week.
did vote on that? Okay. Yeah. No more changes. So,
Did we hire a town shed guy?
We haven't done highway yet.
what was that?
Asking if we had hired a new highway department gentleman yet?
No, I think it's just the.
Was there any change to the highway department budget, Tim, since the last time?
Not since the last time, I don't believe. I
Oh,
can-
actually, yeah, you went down a little bit more on the wages, I think.
On the director's salary, I think
Yeah,
that
you
was
went
the
down a
only
little
one.
bit.
What are we looking at? Highway department?
So we're
was a
looking at the
slight change.
administration right
Page
now.
Administration.
Oh, wait.
Well, Judy said
They're
talking
looking at
about highway,
highway.
so.
Well, they were asking,
looking at-
they were just asking about the highway director. There's
So
no
we're looking at admin right
admin,
now.
which is
Okay.
actually down.
What Let me just see here.
from the last year's budget. Why is the administration down from last year?
Because of the absence of the encumbrances for the town hall maintenance and repairs primarily.
Okay,
So we had encumbered the boiler and then other monies for work.
So it went from 755 to 777 since the last one. That's because we went over the salaries.
Correct.
I make a motion, we approve the administration budget at 777,401.
is there a second?
Second.
Judy? More discussion?
I think they answered that.
That,
Yep.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
Catherine, which line was it that you minused out for the park? Which one was that?
That was on
That was,
That was- Park maintenance,
What line, what budget is that under?
page
page 11.
Okay, so we still have to do that, right?
No, we
no, we
voted
did, we
already.
We
voted
did
on
that.
that.
Oh, we did,
yeah.
okay, sorry. Just want to make sure I didn't. So the next one is just highway, public works.
Yeah, it's sanitation too, I believe.
Yeah, I guess they
I thought
separated
we
that.
didn't
No, we
already-
did
We
sanitation.
did
Did you do that last
sanitation.
time?
I don't think we did the public
We just had
works.
public works, and then,
They did
We weren't
decrease
sure
it.
about public works, so.
then if Tim gives us the bottom line number, we can vote on that, right?
When
That would
did
be
On public works?
838,
No, on the whole
189.
budget.
Oh, on the whole
Public
budget?
works went down a
Well, I
little bit.
guess we don't have to vote on it. You can give us a bottom line number for this
Yes,
when we're done.
tonight.
If you want us to vote on it.
Well, the public
Well,
hearing is the
Well,
31st,
you are voting on all the components.
and we're not going to meet next week.
So
There
if we
are some
vote on Public
differences.
Works, we voted on all of them.
Right, but I'd like to know what the bottom line is, because we did make some changes.
Yeah, I can,
I hope
I
it
can
goes down.
certainly have that for you soon.
So did we
Okay.
hold off on
Tomorrow.
sanitation because we
Yeah, I
thought
don't see sanitation being
I was
voted
gonna
on.
say.
that because,
I thought we did sanitation.
You did,
I don't have it, but. I
you did
thought
the
maybe you
public,
did last
the Parks Commission, but not sanitation.
I thought we did.
Sanitation, we had a question
Well,
on
sure on the,
You know better than me.
demo material, I think.
Right.
right.
Yeah, he answered that last week, but you didn't want to vote on anything last week, so it was the amnesty weeks that had caused that to go up.
Well, and I do think there may be some adjustments between that and the, if you look at the differences, the overage and the demo material, and then the, in the residential solid waste, you see how we're slightly underspent. So I think there's, I have to go back through the invoices from NRRA for the demo material removal and separate out any of the recycling, residential recycling. But basically, if you were to take those two, add them together, it would come out about even.
Do a better job. Well, the public works went down since the last budget that we talked about.
Great, we better grab it now.
They went down a little bit. I think there was,
There was one other slight change was in the additional crew, because the recycling center is going to take some time to get up and running. It was halved for half the year, not a full year for that position. So
Helps.
given the reality of what needs to take place
Right.
before it's really up and running and requires staff. So that was also a savings.
Where was that, under salaries?
That's under cruise wages.
public works.
Oh, crew salaries.
So the total of 1,436,639 is accurate for both of those.
Yes.
Well, I move we approve Public Works and Sanitation at $1,436,639. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Am I rushing this too fast or?
No.
Still looking, hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
So we did sanitation and public works.
Yes,
at the
that
same
was,
time.
yeah, that was a combined.
I think that's all of them, isn't it?
Looks like that's, all of our boxes are checked now. Are there warrant articles that we have to look at?
Those will be coming. They're not ready as yet.
Okay.
The moneyed warrant articles, yes.
We did get
So-
a sheet that says encumbrances.
Yeah, that's what was taken out of the
23.
administration budget. I believe.
Oh, okay.
That's why it went down.
So I've come up with a total of $5,931,163.
You know, we're going to ask you to repeat that.
5,931,163.
It went down.
So it went down a little bit.
And,
But it's up from 2023.
right.
Every year it's up.
Sure.
So I need to, obviously just double check that and run that through, make sure everything's filled in, but that looks like the preliminary number.
All right, so we don't need to vote on that right now, or?
We voted on all the components.
Right.
We can vote on it at the public
Public
hearing
hearing, yeah.
if we don't get any input we want to change.
Is there any other public comment out there? Now, during the public hearing, if we have people online, how do I know if there's someone raising their hand? Do they have to show themselves?
So someone would have to monitor the system here, but you can mute people and unmute them as needed.
But how would I know if someone had a question?
They can raise their hand. You can instruct them to raise their
You
hand.
can see it on there.
And they will see that
Yeah.
they'll have to be on here because there's
Yeah, and
people
you'll
that listen without being
You'll see
identified.
up in the corner, up in the top left corner, there's a hand
Look at
that
these names
that is
over
not
here.
read right now, but it would be
Okay.
read if someone had raised their
So
hand.
there would be, all right.
Yep.
I just want to be aware of that.
And periodically, you can ask, if it's not clear who's raised their hand.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
So the budget increase was a 4.17%.
4.17.
4.17.
I like that it keeps going down there, Tim. But
Lower's always better.
all right. So the other business is right now all we have is the public hearing.
We have next week off.
We have next week off. Yeah.
I don't know.
Be here for the public hearing.
Okay.
We only have one public hearing, right?
Open house at school.
One public hearing?
We will have one, and if we need to have another one, we could. But yeah,
I'm
we're
hoping to
expecting to
just
have one.
The 31st.
Okay.
So we won't have next week, but we'll be back here on the 31st.
So how do I write that agenda?
31st, yeah. And that's 6 o'clock here. Correct.
So 6 PM here, and we just do everything normal instead of, the only thing different on the agenda will be
We'll just,
public hearing?
we'll be
That's like,
having
that's
a
it?
public hearing, fielding questions and
Okay.
You might want to have a
concerns.
sign-in sheet so you're not having
Yeah,
to worry.
Yeah,
I
about
found
right.
one, yeah. I found one in our Google Doc, so.
Okay, great.
Okay, so it's
Look at that, an hour.
6 p.m. here.
7:05. Are you,
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll second.
Thanks.
Aye, aye.
Then, seconded it.
So, I find it
Okay,
interesting.
so that's the 31st. I put a reminder in here. So
2 weeks.
I know,